Gus here to review Destiny 2 Beyond Light. Destiny 2 is a free-to-play game available on PC, Xbox One and Series, PS4, and PS5. It is a massive multiplayer online first-person shooter, and Beyond Light is the newest premium expansion for the game. This review is coming to you in two parts. First is information for parents, and the second is going to be information for gamers. In terms of violence, if you're familiar with the Halo franchise, Destiny is going to be very similar to that. One of the opening cutscenes for the Beyond Light expansion does have an alien get his arm ripped off, so if that's something you're sensitive to, you might want to skip this one. There's not a lot of blood or dismemberment effects in this game, but some enemies do disintegrate on death when using certain weapon types. Most of the enemies in this game are either aliens or some kind of mechanical robot type thing. There is an optional player versus player combat. As far as I can tell, there are no references to any kind of drugs or alcohol in Destiny 2. There is no romance or nudity in this game, and all character skins are very family friendly. It's all armor pieces that you would use for protection, so nothing even the slightest bit risque. Words like damn and hell do show up in the in-game dialogue, but their use is very infrequent. As an online game, there is both voice and text chat with other players, and you should be careful with that with particularly young gamers. These are optional and can be disabled through the settings. While Destiny 2 is technically a free-to-play game, there's very limited content right now for free-to-play players. I'll talk about this more in the information for gamers section, however, so if you want to know more, stay tuned for that. Once or twice a year, they release premium expansions. These are individual purchases that you can make that unlock new campaign missions, as well as locations and sometimes game modes to explore. Every expansion in Destiny that I've played has been awesome, but they do come at around a $20 to $30 price point unless they're on sale. There's also a season pass available in Destiny. This rewards the players for completing missions and doing activities with cosmetic items as well as some convenience things to help them level up faster and unlock things at a better rate. There is also a premium store where you can also purchase cosmetic items as well as some other convenience things. None of these cosmetic and convenience items are strictly necessary, so it's not something that you would need to invest in the same way that you would the expansions that come out that have large portions of the game's content within them. The Destiny 2 gameplay really strongly reflects Bungie's 26-year pedigree of building first-person shooters. I mean, when you think about some of the most iconic shooters to ever exist, you can't have that conversation without talking about Halo, which is from Bungie Studios. And it is an incredibly fun experience, whether you're talking about the PvP, their PvPvE Gambit mode, which is super fun to play, or just their regular player versus environment stuff. Like, the whole thing is always fun to play. It's a great time to get in and shoot aliens. Hats off to Bungie for what they've done with this franchise, particularly taking the idea of first-person shooters and turning it into really an MMO, just like a World of Warcraft, but for people who wouldn't ordinarily play MMOs. The new class, Stasis, is so fun to play, and the way they introduce you to it is really interesting. It's part of the campaign, so I'll try not to spoil anything for anyone, but as you play through the campaign, you get kind of these brief moments where you get to use the Stasis abilities in some different situations, and then as you progress further and further through the campaign, you eventually just unlock it as a permanent subclass for your character. And it's so fun the way all of those things work. I will note, however, that at the time of this recording, Stasis is kind of broken in PvP, and it's kind of made that experience really weird, so approach with caution if you're seeing this right as I'm uploading it, but I trust fully that Bungie will figure out how to get it balanced properly. One thing I will say about the gameplay, particularly for Beyond Light, is that it feels like they didn't do a great job of tuning the drop ratio for the different missions and the gear that you get to the gear requirements for those missions. Coming straight into this, you actually get a power level boost coming in to the new minimum, and the campaign opens right with you at that minimum. You should be able to do everything. But the gear that you get from those campaign missions isn't adequate so that when you finish one mission, you can always jump into the next mission. And this actually ends up being pretty frustrating if you're under-geared for those campaign missions. They are brutally difficult. In the MMO space, Destiny has never failed to impress with their graphics, and the new location, Europa, that they bring in for Beyond Light is no exception to this. Absolutely stunning vistas as you look out across this game, and it's just so... It's interesting because it's the first time that it's been a really snowy environment, and just the snow flying around, and we'll talk more in a bit, the sound of that wind rushing through your ears, like, it's this great ambience, and everything that you move around and look at in the world, it's like, wow, they really put a lot of time into what this location should look like. That said, when you're in the dialogues for Destiny 2, really any of the expansions, the animations don't always seem to be fully connected to the voice lines that are being delivered. So it's a little weird sometimes where the characters are like emoting and kind of interacting, but the voice that you're hearing doesn't seem to be synchronized with it. And it's a little strange, but not a huge big deal. You don't spend a lot of time in those situations where that's going to happen. Most of the time you're only hearing voiceovers while you're running around doing things, so it's not really going to detract from the experience too much. All right, so the sound design for this game has always been really cool. All of the guns sound unique and interesting. The way they make the world sound with some of the little touches, like we talked about in graphics, the wind blowing through your ear, it sounds like what you would expect it to sound like if you were really in an environment like that. I just can't say enough good things about the craftsmanship of this game. Another thing that they do really well is they get some really good voice actors in to do both the voiceover stuff as well as the cutscenes for the game. And so those voice actors really bring it to life. Of course, my favorite was killed off in a much earlier expansion, and that plays into the story too, so there's a lot of good stuff here, and the voice acting and the rest of the sound design is a big part of that. So to talk about the narrative a little bit, I want to start by saying that I didn't play the first Destiny game, so I am by no means an expert in the Destiny lore, but I've played through almost all of the campaign content for Destiny 2, so I'm not completely illiterate when it comes to this. And one of the first things that you'll note about this campaign is that it's got some pretty strong ties to the Forsaken campaign, which was honestly my favorite experience in Destiny 2 so far. I thought that campaign was tremendous, and the fact that this ties back into that was really cool and interesting and helped invest me in that story. The story, particularly for Beyond Light, is really well done. The concept of light in Destiny plays this huge role, and it's kind of this poorly defined, almost Force-like thing where the light allows these guardians to fight and be healed. It's a big part of their world. And in Beyond Light, you're introduced to the darkness, which is kind of like the dark side of the Force. And in this campaign, you end up wielding the darkness, and there are great plot implications for that, and some really cool moments with your... oh, now I forget what they're called. Your ghost? The little floaty dealy guy who comes with you. Like, there's some great voiceover from your companion about the implications of that, and I just thought it was awesome. And to round out our discussion of Destiny 2 Beyond Light, it would be unfair to not talk about the value of the game. A year ago, I would have told you that Destiny 2 as a free-to-play game was one of the best made free-to-play experiences with some of the richest content available for free players and just an all-out great time. With Beyond Light, that story has changed dramatically. They took almost all of their old content that had been free to play and have moved it into their vault, for lack of a better term, where that content just isn't accessible anymore. And really, all of their campaign content that is now accessible to anyone is all locked behind the paywalls of their paid expansions. There is still some free-to-play content out there, but it's hard to recommend Destiny as a free experience the way you might something like Dauntless that we talked about earlier, or Fortnite or something like that, because there's very much a huge difference in what a free player is going to get today and what a paid player is going to get today. For all three of the current expansions, when I looked, it was $90 if you wanted to purchase all of them, and that was with some of them on sale. Beyond Light costs $40, and I don't think there's enough content in Beyond Light to be worth that. Now, with that said, it is part of Xbox Game Pass, and all of the expansions are part of Game Pass. So if Game Pass is something that you've been interested in, and Destiny is something that you're interested in, you have access to all of the content available in Destiny. And I think that's really awesome. But if you're not on Game Pass because you're a PlayStation player, or because Game Pass just isn't something that interests you, it would be really hard for me to recommend this game to anyone who is on the fence about it. I think either it's a no-brainer decision because you're just going to play the new content, or it's probably not worth spending any more money than you already are. So to kind of summarize things, Destiny 2 has incredible graphics, the sound and the narrative are fantastic, and their shining light is their incredible combat. 26 years of experience, and every bit of that shows in how fun and engaging the combat of Destiny 2 is. In terms of what you get when you are in and playing this game, it is absolutely tremendous. That said, they did kind of ruin the free-to-play player experience, and I think that's going to make it hard for them to entice new people into being Destiny players that aren't already invested in it. It just doesn't seem like it's worth the $40 for the content that is available in Beyond Light, but if you've got Game Pass, it's a great time, definitely worth checking out. And if you're a long-term fan of the Destiny franchise, it's probably going to be worth your money to go ahead and keep experiencing. There is a lot of fun to be had here, and I definitely don't regret a minute of time that I spent playing this one. I've been Gus, thanks for watching, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, drop a like down in the thing. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all the rest of our reviews. We'll see you next time.